Good evening, parents. My name is Nikki Duke, and I teach English 2 and 4 here at Tracy High School. And what I'm going to be presenting on tonight is really what a typical week looks like here in our virtual classroom. So what you can see on the screen right now is our Google Classroom. So this is really the central hub of communication for students while learning online, and where they can access all of our class documents and the assignments for the day. Okay, so the stream is here, but where students really go to is this classwork tab here. For my class, I put all important kind of school information or class documents such as the syllabus and the credit chart here at the top under class materials. And then they want to scroll down to see the weeks organized here under the classwork tab. And this is where they can find all of their assignments organized by the week. Okay, so today I'm going to be highlighting week 6, and this is from the English 2 course. So even if I teach your child for English 4, which is senior English, the format is exactly the same. It's just we are reading different texts and learning different skills in that class. Okay, so you can see here that students always will see the agenda slides here and then the assignments. Okay, so what I'm going to be working with is this week 6 agenda slide. Okay, so these agenda slides are always displayed for students in class, and they're always uploaded on Google Classroom. It's a great way for students to check in to see what they missed if they were absent, or if they're just finishing up assignments from the week. It's a good way to recall what we did in class. Okay, so the first slide here is always the week at a glance, and then any links that students need are actually are also embedded on these slides. Okay, so for this week 6, we started our work with Frankenstein. So that is the text that we're currently still working on. Whenever we start a unit, we always start with vocabulary. Okay, so on this Monday, I always start class with a warm-up. So you can see here that our warm-up was actually not related to class, but just a quick check-in for students to vote on the prize that they would like to see offered in our end of the quarter raffle. And I'll maybe explain that towards the end. But typically there's a warm-up here, and that's just time for students to kind of check in, connect with what we're doing. And usually this is how I kind of start class in a class discussion. Before this assignment here, students were learning the initial definitions to our vocabulary words. So you can see here that it's in StudySync. Okay, so students would have been directed to log into our course textbook, StudySync, and they had a quick kind of module where they match definitions and write their own sentences using the word. Okay, so typically I would give students about 20-25 minutes of independent work time to complete that. And then we'd come back as a whole class and work on our class word wall. Okay, so once students learn those initial definitions, they're now working on kind of word association. And there's different prompts up here for students to respond to. Okay, so for this specific assignment, I asked students to choose 2 words to then contribute responses for on our word wall. Okay, so they're just little different prompts for students to practice using the words and associating those words with other things that they already know. Okay, and then for this class, first period, I see them on Mondays and Thursdays. So this would have concluded what we did together in class on Monday. And when students come back to class on Thursday, they would see a similar slide here projected at the start of class. Okay, so now that they know our vocabulary words, I showed a very quick clip of a courtroom, a judge who really kind of went viral for being very lenient and merciful in his kind of decisions. So students would watch this clip and then choose 2 of our vocabulary words to connect to the video in some way. So in the chat box of Google Classroom, they would be working on their response, connecting those 2 vocabulary words. And then after that, as a class, we would have a whole group mini lesson on Pear Deck, really focusing on vocabulary in context. Okay, so that is something that I would send a link students click the link and we would go through those modules and those slides together as a class. And then there's usually a quick kind of independent practice at the end that students would then go through and complete the rest of the slides on their own. Okay, so moving on to the second week of our unit, which would have been week 7. You can see that this is the week that we finally get into reading our text. Okay, so this would be for Frankenstein. So you can see that this whole week is really devoted in students reading the text, getting those initial annotations made, and then working on some short constructed responses. Okay, so just like the previous week, class would start with some sort of warm-up. So for this one, it would have been a quick video that gives a little bit more background information to the author of Frankenstein, as well as connecting it to a text that we had read previously, which was Prometheus. So students would watch the video and then note 2 of the 3 points that are displayed on the board. And then students would have time. Students would then have time to read the text independently. Okay, so again, when students are logging into StudySync, they're given about 25 to 30 minutes to work on the assignment independently. So when they log in, their assignment would look something like this. Okay, so again, this is StudySync. This is our class textbook. Okay, so I give students usually 3 to 4 kind of guided questions. So these are the 3 questions that I want students to be able to answer by the time they're done reading. Okay, so what they're going to do is as they're reading, they're going to make annotations following this guide. And of course, students can always include other annotations, but these are the 3 things that I really want them to be able to answer by the end of reading. Okay, so students would then be able to highlight the important parts according to those guided questions, and then write their annotation notes. Okay, so the annotating tool is actually embedded in StudySync. That's a really useful tool for students to have access to. Okay, and then this would have concluded that day's lesson. Okay, so moving on to, for this class, Thursday, which is their second block, students would then use these annotations to construct short written responses for their think questions. The last thing that I wanted to point to your attention is our end of the quarter raffle that's coming up here in just next week. Okay, so every week I have students choose a prize that they would like me to add to our end of the quarter prize box. Okay, so at the end of the quarter, one student will win this entire box, which will be mailed to them, or they can pick it up on campus if they prefer to do that. So every week, students earn a virtual raffle ticket by completing all their assignments for the week on time. Okay, so by Sunday of that week, as long as students have their 2 assignments in, they automatically qualify for the raffle ticket, and that is issued to them. So if you would like to remind your students to make sure to get their assignments in for this week on time, since it is the last week that they can earn a raffle ticket, that might be a good way to motivate them to get their assignments in this week. All right, so thank you, everyone. Again, my name is Nikki Duke. Feel free to reach out to me anytime if you have any questions about your students' progress or grades or anything else. Thank you. Good night.